Hey class, hope all is well. Happy Tuesday. Whichever day you're watching this, it's about 9 o'clock my time, about 10 o'clock Eastern on Tuesday. I tried to get this out on Monday, but it didn't happen. So a little issues with the computer, and here we are. So let's try again, using a different computer, new camera. Hopefully this will work a little bit better. Got a lot to do this week. Short discussion. First of all, let me say thanks for a job well done in the discussions last week. You already got the discussions kicked off this week and you're moving forward. As I noted, you're doing a very good job. I am proud of all of you. Just quickly, if you haven't done the first couple assignments, please go back and take a look at those. Get those turned in to me. Take a look at the syllabus, the announcements, and jump in that getting started form so that I know who you are and you know who I am. Dr. Doug Brown here, your professor for sociology, introduction. Like I said, a lot of good information this week, and I tell you what I like about these chapters, we really go back to the basics. As you notice, when we go from the front of the book, we're really taking a look at those basics. The research was a little bit intense and in-depth. Normally we wouldn't take a look at that till later on, but it's important that we really get that in the beginning so that you have an understanding of the research process. You'll be using some of that information later on in the class, especially as we move forward. Get ready to submit that final assignment, doing a little bit of research there, so make sure that you pay close attention to that. So we're picking up the basic concepts in chapter 5 this week in our reading. Taking a real good look at roles, and these are the things that we really do every day. It's things that we do, we don't always think about it, but what's our role as it's socially defined? How do other people look at us? What's our status? How do we look at ourselves? What's our social position? These are things that it's really important to take a look at as we move forward. We talk a lot about societies, the role of society, what society means, culture in the discussion this week. Take a good look at that, and it really makes a difference. We all have a place to fit into culture, into society, in our role, and all those are different based upon where we live, what we do, the people we hang out with, our family, how we were raised. Is it possible to change? Absolutely. We see that, I think, now in this generation probably more so than in mine, simply because of technology. We didn't have technology when I was growing up, social media, and it really it lets us examine the other cultures, take a look at society, how it operates. And so those norms that we're used to, we can really take a look at those norms and examine them and discover whether or not for ourselves, discover whether or not we think those norms are something that we want to adapt to or adopt. Or if we want to really do something different. And that's what, like I said, I really like about this book, because it does give us, an idea about where we are right now, where we're headed. Our chapter this week, and I think it really goes back to our development. When we take a look at our discussion, this chapter really goes back to our discussion last time, not on the research process, but before, as we've explored nature versus nurture. And I think we get a real good idea of what that means here, because we take a look at age, we take a look at development, how we develop and we mature from the time that we're born. Through childhood, we start to discover our identity, and then, of course, the social identity, where we fit in to those characteristics that we really fit into society. And then we have that personal identity of our own. So in childhood, there's this debate about whether or not we, back to the nature and nurture, in childhood, whether we're born with innate traits or we picked up those as we go. And I think we all know, maybe it's a little bit of a combination, and that's sort of my theory, because I think we pick up what we learn from others. And I think about my grandson, for example, who really comes from a different culture, and he gets a little bit of a culture shock, because when he's here with me, he picks up what I do and the things that we do, and we've had him almost from day one. He's Vietnamese, and so when he goes with his other family to Oklahoma City, it's all different. The foods are different. They speak Vietnamese. They try to teach him Vietnamese. And so he's picked up some of those different things from both sides. And it was really challenging for him when he was first born, because as he first started to speak, he would really be challenged in trying to speak English and speak Vietnamese, because we were teaching him both, trying to teach him both cultures. And so what we did is we backed off. We thought it was very important for him to learn his culture, to learn Vietnamese, the society, the culture there. We thought that was very important, and so he's picked up some of those ideals. And my point being is that no matter who we are or what background we come from, we are born with traits, I believe, and you can see that in our book. We're born with certain traits, based upon our parents' DNA, etc., and then we pick up those other ideals and the other things as we grow. We grow through childhood. We pick that up during those formative years. Then as we become a teenager, there's other things that we learn. Sometimes there's good, sometimes they're bad. Young adult, it even changes then. And then as we get into a mature adulthood, pretty much we've picked up those things that we're going to learn. We've learned those things, and we've picked them up from different cultures, our role in society. Different things that we're exposed to. And then that really helps us mature, helps to craft and create who we are. So lots to look at there. And again, it goes back to our gender. Sometimes it's based upon our gender. Now, I say that based, about where I am, I recently turned 50. I think you don't really learn anything till you start getting a little bit older. And I think that even those that are older than me will tell you that. And we'll probably all feel that way. The older we get, the more we learn from society. We learn more about our culture, our role, our place in society. And then we use those traits. We become self-aware. We have this social self, whether we develop this social consciousness, we really find our place, see where we are in society, and then start moving forward. And then there's certainly those that generalize us, how they view us, and then how we view ourselves. All of those that are important. And on page 80 of our book, you'll see Freud's theory. You hear a lot about Freud. The more you study sociology, psychology, some of the different, some of those introductory courses, and later on, if you take some of the ethics courses, we hear about Freud a lot. A lot of beliefs there, especially from the religious side about whether or not Freud was right. But he did a lot of good research, and I think a lot of what he had to say is entirely correct. Some of it can be interpreted different ways, but I think a lot of it certainly is controversial. And I want you to take a look at Freud, read a chapter there, especially how he explains the growth process. We get into age 4 or 5 as the theory goes, and discipline changes, autonomy changes as it relates to the father and the mother. And we start changing those different stages, especially again, based upon our what we've learned, our DNA, and then the things that we pick up in our society and culture, where we're moving to, and then sometimes based upon our sex. Lots of theories there. I want you to keep those in mind. Discuss those if you don't mind. Now, page 81 is interesting to me. Carol Gilligan. You'll hear about the Gilligan's theory quite often if you watch the old shows. Like when I was a kid, it's not Gilligan's Island, it's Gilligan's Theory, much different. And she has a lot of discussion there about adult men and women. I really want you to pay attention to Gilligan's Theory. It's pretty interesting reading, and you can tell me whether or not you agree with that. Not everybody does agree with Carol Gilligan, but she does have some different things are based upon her research. So, lots of good stuff. Interesting to me, this is all outlined on page 88. You would get a real good breakdown of the basic concepts and theories of socialization. Real good chart there. If you haven't taken a look at that, I encourage you to get it. It's a good place to, put a sticky note or something into to refer back to that as we move forward. Now, as we get into chapter 5, we pick up some more of those basic concepts. Again, going back to what I mentioned earlier on the roles and the status, especially social status. When it comes to when it comes to social media, we do really get to change some of the different things that we do. We discuss nonverbal communication on page 95, gestures, face, and emotion. We all know that those nonverbal cues as we call them, or nonverbal communication. We don't just have to speak in order to get our point across or share something that's on our mind for other people to really judge us and kind of think. That nonverbal gestures really make a difference sometimes in what we're doing. And I think that's really important as you move along in your career as well, to learn those as you do your job interviews. Sometimes that nonverbal communication gives the cue to those people that's interviewing you, and you want to really make sure you practice that. We talk a little bit about response, some of the interaction that we have, both focused and unfocused interaction in different situations, especially those social situations. That's on page 97. So we'll take a look at that. A little bit about time, and then we go on with some more theories as we move forward. Now, we talked about social media, some of the things that we do with social rules and talk. That's discussed on page 102. Get a good look at that if you don't mind, and that's really important because it's all different, again, depending upon our culture, depending upon the society, whatever you're used to, you're accustomed to, your family, your religious setting, or if you don't have one, those social rules and talk really make a difference. And it's all different for us, again, depending upon our position in society, how our family operates, or how our friends operate. Talk a little bit about race, which is important, always good topic, men and women. That's on page 105. There's some different opinions on that. And again, it's all based upon a culture. In Saudi Arabia, for example, women don't drive. Here they do. And that's changing in Saudi Arabia, but different cultures and societies have different opinions about how we should operate and how things should be carried out. So just take a look at that if you don't mind. So good discussion this week. Lots of good assignments to take a look. Read those 2 chapters if you don't mind popping those discussions. I want you to take a look at that rubric for me. Take a look at the instructions. Make sure you're clear on that. Check your grammar for me. Support your research that you have, your thoughts, examples, the details with citations. Remember, author, comma, year inside the sentence before the period, and then add your references. I've got some real good examples for you there in the announcements. Take a look at that. I'd like for you to refer back to those as you get time. I think those are going to be important to do that, just to refer back and forth. You might want to print some of the information out so that you have it and sort of create a binder. I've got one of those. And I like to put all my information in the binder. Put everything in there based upon, what you're doing. I like color coding and that sort of thing. You don't have to get as fancy as I do. But you can put that information in your binder and have it for you and tabbed. Whether that's with sticky notes, pretty easy, cheap way to do it. Or if you want to go with the fancy tabs, it's a good way to do it. And it lets you refer back. If you have any questions about theory, you can print those out. Engage and allow me to create a real good file for you on some of the different theory. But as we move forward, I'll hopefully try to save that for you. But it is just something to think about. So get the discussions in. Remember to respond to 3 or more of your peers this week. Be careful not to get those short replies. Try to get those really in-depth, detailed replies. And don't just, put something in there. Really pay attention to what your peers are saying and try to offer some points back on that. If you use outside research, make sure you support it. So hopefully everything's going good. You're moving forward. I hope you're enjoying the class so far. It's a lot of work, a lot of detail, a lot of definitions. But don't give up on me. Hang in there. We're going to have fun. Just like I said, we're going to enjoy it. I'm going to give you lots of feedback in the rubric, probably more than you've gotten in the past. Hopefully give you some good tips as we move on. And help you complete the course. If you need me, I want you to pick the phone up, give me a call, send me an email. We can meet via Skype, and I'll do everything I can to help you. Thanks for watching the video. If you need me, give me a call. Thanks.